Smile for the camera, Frankie. Hey folks, well, you probably noticed a little change in my intro, huh? What I'm going to do here is occasionally I want to do some quick updates like I'm going to do here today with my rocket stove. And normally I hold off until I have enough content to do full-length productions. But people are always saying they wish that I could put videos out more often. So I'm going to do these short clips occasionally. Like I'm going to do here today, I'm going to give you a little update on the changes I made to my rocket stove. And I'm going to fire it up and see how it works out. So I'll show you what I did. And then we'll fire it up. I'm going to cook up some steak and cheese for lunch. Now I'm just doing a little experiment with my rocket stove here. When I made my prototype and did the first video, I used the U-bolts, and the only reason why I use the U-bolts and not the stove grate is because when I'm doing a how-to type of video, I want to show stuff that is readily available that anybody can go to the hardware store and find and put their project together. I have 3 of those stove grates. I haven't used it yet. I'm still experimenting with the U-bolts. Now, in my experiment that I showed, it was about 30 degrees or so, and it was really, really windy, and nonetheless, it still brought that water to a boil without a wind guard or anything. And for cooking purposes, it would have just been cooking in no time. I mean, that water was hot within just a couple of minutes. So what I did here, I want to show you. I removed my U-bolts, I put them in my vise, and I bent them over 90 degrees. And I'm going to give that a try. But to be honest with you, I think it's going to be too low, and the fire might not draw as good, and I might have been better off to leave the U-bolts the way that they were. So I might have hit the jackpot on the first attempt, but we're going to find out. And this is why I like to experiment. And then here, this is just a little piece of stovepipe that I put on here. And I'll show you here. Now this thing here, this is just a little piece of stovepipe that I put in to hold the wood. And then when I'm all done, I'll just put it apart and stuff it right in the hole for easy transport. So for now, just put it back together. Very simple. Stuff that right in the hole. And that'll hold the wood up for cooking. So I'm going to go ahead and fire this baby up. One thing I want to mention here, when I was building the rocket stove and I was showing the 4-inch T-pipe, I had said that I wished that it wasn't galvanized, but it's all that I could find in the 4-inch T. I would never use a galvanized product for a high heat situation inside a closed area, because as that galvanizing is burning off, it releases, I think it's like a zinc oxide gas or something. It's not good for you. For this situation here, being outdoors, cooking in a fry pan or a closed pot, I think it'd be just fine. To my knowledge, the galvanized burns off once you get it up around 600 degrees. So that's why the first time that I built the stove, all I did was I was boiling a pot of water outside just as an experiment. I don't think I would like cook a hot dog over it or something like that. It might be all right, but I'm unsure. But inside a fry pan and outdoors like this, I'm pretty certain it'd be fine. So, but on a, for using indoors, which I wouldn't use this stove indoors, but I wouldn't use a galvanized pipe in an inside situation like that, not for anything that's going to be burning hot. So I just wanted to mention that to y'all. These stoves are just the coolest little things. Here I'm cooking my steak and cheese. It's cold out, it's fairly windy. I don't have to have firewood stockpiled. I don't need a fire pit. I don't need charcoal. I don't need propane. Nothing more than a handful of twigs, little tiny twigs, okay, that you can find on the ground. I'm cooking my steak and cheese. In my first video, even in the conditions the way that they were, I was able to boil water. That took about 20 minutes. If I would have had a wind break on the stove, of course it would have cut the time down. But nonetheless, within 20 minutes I was boiling water But as far as getting the water hot, it was hot within a minute of lighting the fire. Here it is. I mean, take a look at this. Fire is burning away, okay? You can probably hear that sizzling. Look at that. Yeah, man. Isn't that amazing? What you see in the firebox right there is all the wood that I have put in here. And my stuff is cooked already. Just fabulous. What a cool freaking stove this is. So I'm going to go ahead and make my other stove, and I'll give an update. I'm going to make a 6-inch one, and I'm going to make another 4-inch one, and that one's going to have folding legs and an external air intake and a few other ideas. As far as the U-bolts, I think I hit it right the first time, and I think the stove was drawing much better by leaving the U-bolts standing up. I've had a lot of folks asking about using regular hex head bolts. That was my intention. I had bought a bag of bolts and I was going to use them, and then I decided the U-bolts might be a better fit, and I think I hit it right the first time. Now that I've bent them, the stove's not drawing as well as it did on the first time. Now, I'm curious if I put an air intake on this one with the U-bolts being bent, how that would work out. But I think either way, I think the air intake is going to be a really big plus for the stove and make it perform even much better. But as it is, you can't complain. I'm out here and I cooked my steak and cheese with nothing more than a handful of twigs. So anyway, I'm gonna chow. Yeah, cooked with nothing but a handful of twigs. Gotta love it. Mm.